Beneath the glow of the moon, Luna Whisper Tales invites you into a world of wonder, stories to calm the night, and whispers that stay in your heart. Listen and let the moon speak to you. Shadows of the lost city. The night had draped Golden Lane in a thick, restless fog. Every lamp post cast long, wavering shadows across the cobblestone path, making the familiar streets look alien and treacherous. Ethan Blake, a detective known as much for his sharp instincts as for his quiet demeanor, stepped carefully along the wet stones. His eyes scanned the street with meticulous precision, searching for clues that had evaded others for years. For weeks, whispers of the Golden Medallion had drawn him to this labyrinthine district. Rumors told of its mysterious power, a secret artifact hidden somewhere along the twisting paths of the city. Ethan knew that every detail mattered, every shadow could conceal a hint, and every passerby could be a messenger or a threat. As he paused near a street corner, the faintest rustle caught his attention. From the darkness emerged Margaret Collins, an enigmatic figure whose motives were always uncertain. She moved with a grace that masked the keen intelligence behind her eyes. Ethan had seen her before, always at the edges of his investigations, sometimes as an ally, sometimes as a rival. Tonight she was clearly watching, assessing. "Interesting night," she said softly, her voice blending with the fog. "Golden Lane has a way of revealing truths only to those who dare to look closely." Ethan nodded, though he remained silent. He did not trust anyone fully yet, not even her. Every clue he uncovered had to be cross-checked, every lead verified. His instincts screamed that Victor Hawthorne, a man whose reputation for ruthless ambition and cunning schemes was well known, was already moving in the shadows, plotting to claim the artifact for himself. Victor's network of informants and his readiness to eliminate obstacles had kept him steps ahead of everyone else. But Ethan had something Victor did not: patience, observation, and a willingness to walk the line between darkness and light in pursuit of the truth. The fog thickened as Ethan moved deeper into the winding streets, where every alley whispered secrets of the past. The cobblestones glistened under the streetlights, reflecting hints of forgotten messages etched into their surfaces. He crouched near a weathered wall, uncovering a small scrap of paper hidden beneath loose bricks. Faded letters revealed part of a riddle, a fragment of the map that could lead to the medallion. Margaret, meanwhile, traced his movements silently. She knew the danger that Victor posed and the delicate balance that Ethan had to maintain. Any wrong step, any miscalculation, and the trail to the artifact could vanish forever. And yet, she could not resist observing him. The meticulous detective who never missed a beat, whose every glance seemed to unravel hidden truths from the mundane. Ethan unfolded the paper with careful precision. The cryptic symbols danced in the dim light, teasing the edges of comprehension. He murmured under his breath, interpreting the fragmented directions. "Corner of the Three Oaks, under the broken lantern. Next step." Each discovery led him deeper into the maze of Golden Lane, closer to the medallion's elusive secret, and deeper into the web of intrigue spun by Victor and his shadowy allies. Suddenly, a distant echo of footsteps resonated through the alley. Ethan stiffened. He recognized the pattern immediately: Victor's signature gait. The man had been here before, leaving subtle but deliberate markers to mislead any pursuers. Ethan had anticipated this and adjusted his path accordingly, slipping into a narrow passage that led toward an abandoned warehouse at the lane's edge. Margaret followed silently and without hesitation, trusting him for now, but fully aware that any misstep could spell disaster. Her eyes caught a flicker of movement, a shadow crossing the windows above. Victor's men were always watching, always waiting. The tension grew, threading the night with the scent of danger, and Ethan felt the first real pulse of the chase. As he approached the warehouse, Ethan paused to survey the exterior. Every detail mattered: the cracked windows, the loose hinges of the back door, the faint scuff marks along the cobblestones. His mind raced, piecing together the puzzle. Somewhere inside lay another clue, another step toward the medallion, and another opportunity for confrontation. Margaret whispered, "Are you sure this is the right place?" Ethan's eyes did not leave the shadows. "It has to be. The path is written in pieces. This is the next piece." A sudden noise made both of them freeze. A cat, or something heavier, scampered across the rooftop. Ethan held his breath, listening. The streets had secrets, but so did the building before him. One wrong move could alert Victor, or, worse, put the artifact and their lives in jeopardy. Ethan reached the warehouse door and slowly pushed it open. The creak echoed almost theatrically through the empty space. Dust motes floated in the pale light filtering from the broken windows. The place smelled of rust, wood, and the faint tang of old stone. He stepped inside, careful, deliberate, sensing that this was more than just an abandoned warehouse. This was another stage in the game that Victor had set, and Ethan had to navigate it perfectly. Margaret stepped beside him, her hand hovering near the concealed dagger at her belt. A precaution, though Ethan did not notice. Together they moved silently through the building, each sound amplified, each shadow potentially lethal. Ethan's eyes caught a small marking on the far wall. Another clue, another fragment of the map. He traced it with a gloved finger, committing the pattern to memory. Outside, the fog swirled thicker, a living entity shielding their movements from prying eyes. Somewhere, Victor watched. Somewhere, the medallion waited. And somewhere in the depths of Golden Lane, the night was only beginning to reveal its secrets. The warehouse reeked of age and decay. Dust hung thick in the air, disturbed only by the faintest stirrings of movement as Ethan and Margaret advanced cautiously through the shadowed interior. Wooden beams groaned above them, the sound echoing like distant warnings in the cavernous space. Every step felt deliberate, every footfall potentially announcing their presence to unseen eyes. Ethan's hand hovered near the small flashlight clipped to his coat. He flicked it on, sweeping the beam across the room. The walls were lined with rusting shelves, broken crates, and the detritus of long-forgotten operations. Among the debris, something caught his attention. A scrap of paper pinned to a beam with a rusty nail. Margaret leaned closer, curiosity flickering across her face. "Another clue?" she whispered. Ethan nodded. He snatched the paper carefully. Faded ink revealed a series of numbers and letters, coordinates of some kind, likely tied to the next step in the medallion's trail. He tucked it into his coat pocket. "Victor will have already guessed that someone might be following the trail," he murmured. "But we can't waste time." They continued deeper into the warehouse, moving between shadow and half-light. Ethan's instincts were razor-sharp, honed over years of cases where every misstep could mean the difference between life and death. He could feel Victor's influence like a chill crawling across his spine, an invisible presence that threatened to snare them at any moment. Margaret moved silently beside him, eyes scanning the rafters and corners for any hint of danger. Her hand brushed the dagger at her belt unconsciously. Despite her calm exterior, she knew that Victor's men could be anywhere. The warehouse, abandoned though it seemed, could easily conceal ambushes, traps, or even the medallion itself. A faint click echoed from the far side of the warehouse. Ethan froze. "Someone's here," he whispered, voice low, measured. Margaret stiffened, her hand tightening around her dagger. The noise came again, deliberate, almost taunting. Footsteps, light, careful, but deliberate. Ethan gestured for Margaret to stay close and crouched low, moving toward the sound. Shadows shifted in the corners of the room, but there was nothing clearly visible. He caught a glint of metal in the faint light. A crowbar, perhaps, or something more sinister. Whoever it was, they were watching, waiting, and testing their patience. Suddenly, a loud crash resounded from the upper floor. Dust and debris fell like rain from above, and Ethan reacted instantly, pulling Margaret down behind a stack of crates. "Victor's men," he muttered. "They're trying to flush us out." Margaret's eyes narrowed. "We can't let them get the medallion first." Ethan nodded, scanning the room for escape routes and vantage points. A small catwalk ran along the far wall, partially broken but still climbable. He motioned toward it. "We move fast and stay quiet. Follow me." They crept along the broken floorboards, the sound of their movement masked by the continuing rumble of debris. The catwalk led them to a side door, partially concealed by a fallen beam. Ethan pushed it open cautiously, revealing a narrow corridor lined with old storage rooms. The dim light filtering from cracks in the roof barely illuminated the path. Inside one of the rooms, Ethan discovered another fragment of the medallion's map, carefully tucked beneath a pile of rotting boxes. He studied it, committing every line and symbol to memory. The pattern was becoming clearer. The medallion was closer than they thought, but so were the dangers. Every step forward seemed to draw them deeper into Victor's carefully laid web. Margaret touched his shoulder lightly. "Do you think we're being followed?" Ethan's eyes scanned the corridor, every sense alert. "Without a doubt," he said. "Victor knows we're close. He'll do everything he can to stay ahead." The corridor ended in a small stairwell leading to the roof. The fog outside swirled in thick, opaque clouds, hiding the streets below. Ethan and Margaret climbed cautiously, knowing that any misstep could mean falling into Victor's trap. From the roof, they could see the expanse of Golden Lane, a labyrinth of shadows, fog, and secrets. Ethan's jaw tightened. "The medallion is here somewhere. Victor's already made his moves, but we still have a chance. We need to be smarter, faster, and more careful than ever." Margaret nodded, her eyes scanning the surrounding rooftops for any sign of movement. "Then let's find it," she whispered. Together they crouched low, moving silently across the roof, the night stretching endlessly before them. Every alley, every shadow, every flicker of light was a clue, and a potential threat. The chase had truly begun. Outside, the fog thickened, curling around the rooftops like ghostly fingers. Victor watched from the shadows, a cold smile playing on his lips. The game was far from over, and the medallion's secrets were still hidden. But one thing was certain. The night had only just begun. The warehouse reeked of age and decay. Dust hung thick in the air, disturbed only by the faintest stirrings of movement as Ethan and Margaret advanced cautiously through the shadowed interior. Wooden beams groaned above them, the sound echoing like distant warnings in the cavernous space. Every step felt deliberate, every footfall potentially announcing their presence to unseen eyes. Ethan's hand hovered near the small flashlight clipped to his coat. He flicked it on, sweeping the beam across the room. The walls were lined with rusting shelves, broken crates, and the detritus of long-forgotten operations. Among the debris, something caught his attention, a scrap of paper pinned to a beam with a rusty nail. Margaret leaned closer, curiosity flickering across her face. "Another clue?" she whispered. Ethan nodded. He snatched the paper carefully. Faded ink revealed a series of numbers and letters, coordinates of some kind, likely tied to the next step in the medallion's trail. He tucked it into his coat pocket. "Victor will have already guessed that someone might be following the trail," he murmured. "But we can't waste time." They continued deeper into the warehouse, moving between shadow and half-light. Ethan's instincts were razor-sharp, honed over years of cases where every misstep could mean the difference between life and death. He could feel Victor's influence like a chill crawling across his spine, an invisible presence that threatened to snare them at any moment. Margaret moved silently beside him, eyes scanning the rafters and corners for any hint of danger. Her hand brushed the dagger at her belt unconsciously. Despite her calm exterior, she knew that Victor's men could be anywhere. The warehouse, abandoned though it seemed, could easily conceal ambushes, traps, or even the medallion itself. A faint click echoed from the far side of the warehouse. Ethan froze. "Someone's here," he whispered, voice low, measured. Margaret stiffened, her hand tightening around her dagger. The noise came again, deliberate, almost taunting. Footsteps, light, careful, but deliberate. Ethan gestured for Margaret to stay close and crouched low, moving toward the sound. Shadows shifted in the corners of the room, but there was nothing clearly visible. He caught a glint of metal in the faint light, a crowbar, perhaps, or something more sinister. Whoever it was, they were watching, waiting, and testing their patience. Suddenly, a loud crash resounded from the upper floor. Dust and debris fell like rain from above, and Ethan reacted instantly, pulling Margaret down behind a stack of crates. "Victor's men," he muttered. "They're trying to flush us out." Margaret's eyes narrowed. "We can't let them get the medallion first." Ethan nodded, scanning the room for escape routes and vantage points. A small catwalk ran along the far wall, partially broken but still climbable. He motioned toward it. "We move fast and stay quiet. Follow me." They crept along the broken floorboards, the sound of their movement masked by the continuing rumble of debris. The catwalk led them to a side door, partially concealed by a fallen beam. Ethan pushed it open cautiously, revealing a narrow corridor lined with old storage rooms. The dim light filtering from cracks in the roof barely illuminated the path. Inside one of the rooms, Ethan discovered another fragment of the medallion's map, carefully tucked beneath a pile of rotting boxes. He studied it, committing every line and symbol to memory. The pattern was becoming clearer. The medallion was closer than they thought, but so were the dangers. Every step forward seemed to draw them deeper into Victor's carefully laid web. Margaret touched his shoulder lightly. "Do you think we're being followed?" Ethan's eyes scanned the corridor, every sense alert. "Without a doubt," he said. "Victor knows we're close. He'll do everything he can to stay ahead." The corridor ended in a small stairwell leading to the roof. The fog outside swirled in thick, opaque clouds, hiding the streets below. Ethan and Margaret climbed cautiously, knowing that any misstep could mean falling into Victor's trap. From the roof, they could see the expanse of Golden Lane, a labyrinth of shadows, fog, and secrets. Ethan's jaw tightened. "The medallion is here, somewhere. Victor's already made his moves, but we still have a chance. We need to be smarter, faster, and more careful than ever. Margaret nodded, her eyes scanning the surrounding rooftops for any sign of movement. Then let's find it, she whispered. Together they crouched low, moving silently across the roof, the night stretching endlessly before them. Every alley, every shadow, every flicker of light was a clue and a potential threat. The chase had truly begun. Outside, the fog thickened, curling around the rooftops like ghostly fingers. Victor watched from the shadows, a cold smile playing on his lips. The game was far from over, and the medallion's secrets were still hidden. But one thing was certain. The night had only just begun. The fog over Golden Lane thickened, swallowing the dim street lights and turning familiar buildings into vague silhouettes. Ethan and Margaret crouched on the rooftop, scanning every shadow, every corner. Victor's presence seemed to haunt the mist itself, an invisible predator tracking their every move. Ethan whispered, "The medallion can't be far. Victor's steps are calculated, but so are ours." Margaret nodded silently, gripping her dagger tighter, her eyes flicking across rooftops for any hint of movement. They dropped carefully to the fire escape of a decrepit building, the metal groaning beneath their weight. At street level, the fog swallowed the world, reducing everything to shapes and shadows. Every step they took could give them away. Every sound might be their last mistake. Inside the building, Ethan led Margaret through a narrow corridor. Dust fell from the ceiling as they moved, and the air smelled of mold and old wood. He held up a hand as a faint click echoed from the end of the hall. They froze. Someone, or something, was watching them. Margaret whispered, "Trap?" "Maybe," Ethan replied, "but we don't have a choice. The medallion won't wait." They continued carefully, moving along the cracked wooden floor. Behind a broken door frame, Ethan found a small switch embedded in the wall. He pressed it, and a panel slid open, revealing a hidden passage. The air inside smelled stale, tinged with a faint metallic scent. "This has to be it," Ethan murmured. He stepped inside, and Margaret followed. The passage was narrow, forcing them to move single file. The walls were lined with old pipes and wiring, and the floor was slick with moisture. Every step echoed, but they had no other option. The passage descended into darkness. Ethan flicked on his flashlight, the beam cutting through the gloom. Shadows danced along the walls, forming shapes that seemed almost alive. Margaret's hand never left her dagger, her instincts on high alert. After what felt like an eternity, the passage opened into a vast underground chamber. Old crates and barrels were stacked haphazardly, and in the center lay a pedestal, partially obscured by dust and shadows. On it rested a small, ornate box, the medallion's final hiding place. Ethan approached cautiously. His heart pounded. "Finally," he breathed. But as he reached for the box, a sound behind them made him spin around. Victor stepped out of the shadows, his expression calm but deadly. "Did you really think it would be that easy?" he said, his voice echoing in the chamber. Margaret moved in front of Ethan, dagger raised. "We're not leaving without it." Victor smiled, slowly circling the pedestal. "You're brave. I'll give you that. But bravery doesn't win against planning." Ethan scanned the room quickly. There were hidden tripwires, faint scratches on the floor, and marks suggesting someone had been here recently. Victor had anticipated their move perfectly. A sudden metallic click resounded, and a set of spikes shot from the floor where Ethan had just stood. He leaped back, narrowly avoiding them. Margaret lunged at Victor, who sidestepped effortlessly, knocking her dagger aside. Ethan grabbed a loose chain hanging from the ceiling and swung it, knocking Victor off balance. The two detectives lunged together, seizing the box from the pedestal. Victor snarled, rushing to intercept them, but the chamber's uneven crates and barrels slowed him. Ethan and Margaret sprinted toward the hidden passage. Victor followed, but they had the advantage. They knew the route, every twist and turn memorized. The fog outside welcomed them like an ally as they emerged from the building, hearts racing, the medallion secure in Ethan's coat. From the rooftops, Victor watched silently. His eyes glinted with anger and admiration. "You've won this round," he muttered. "But the game isn't over." Ethan and Margaret didn't stop to celebrate. The streets of Golden Lane were still filled with shadows, secrets, and dangers. The medallion was theirs for now, but its mysteries were far from solved. Every ally could be a traitor, every street could hide a trap, and every night could be their last. As they disappeared into the mist, the first hints of dawn illuminated the fog. The city was waking, but the game of shadows and secrets continued, and Ethan knew one thing for certain. Victor would be back, and the chase was far from over. The early morning mist still clung to Golden Lane, giving the city an eerie, deserted feeling. Ethan and Margaret moved quickly, sticking to the shadows, the medallion safely tucked inside Ethan's coat. Every step was cautious, every noise could alert someone, or something, waiting for them. "Victor won't give up," Margaret muttered. "He's too clever to just let it go." Ethan nodded. "We need to find out why the medallion is so important. There's more to it than just gold or jewels." They ducked into a narrow alleyway, the walls close and damp, graffiti peeling from the bricks. From somewhere deep in the shadows, a faint scraping noise made them freeze. Margaret's hand went to her dagger instinctively. "Someone's there," she whispered. "Or something," Ethan added. They moved slowly forward, flashlights sweeping across the walls. A shadow darted across the far end of the alley, and both detectives tensed. Suddenly, a figure emerged, a young street informant named Lucas, his clothes tattered and eyes wide with fear. "Detectives," Lucas gasped. "You can't carry that medallion through the city. There are people watching, powerful people." Ethan crouched to meet his gaze. "Who is watching?" Lucas swallowed hard. "The Order of the Veil. They've been after that medallion for centuries. It's not just a trinket. It holds secrets, secrets that could change everything if they're revealed." Margaret frowned. "Secrets? What kind of secrets?" Lucas shook his head. "I don't know everything, but I know Victor isn't working alone. The Order has agents everywhere. You have to hide it, and fast." Ethan's mind raced. If the medallion could reveal ancient secrets, then it made sense why Victor had been so relentless. And now, with the Order involved, the stakes were higher than ever. A sudden shout echoed from behind them. They spun around to see shadowy figures emerging at the alley entrance. Agents of the Order, black-cloaked and moving silently, closing in fast. "Run!" Ethan yelled. They darted down another narrow lane, their footsteps echoing against the walls. Crates and trash cans littered the street, forcing them to jump, slide, and maneuver carefully. As they ran, Margaret pulled out a small smoke bomb from her pocket, throwing it behind them. Smoke filled the alley, giving them cover. The figures hesitated, coughing and flailing, and Ethan seized the opportunity to change direction, leading Margaret through a hidden side passage Lucas had shown him earlier. They emerged in an abandoned warehouse district, the medallion still secure. Breathing hard, Ethan said, "We need a plan. We can't just keep running." Margaret nodded. "First, we find out what the medallion does. Then we figure out how to stop Victor and the Order before they use it." Inside the warehouse, Ethan opened the ornate box. The medallion shimmered, almost alive, reflecting the dim light. Symbols etched on its surface seemed to shift as he stared, patterns forming and dissolving like liquid fire. "This isn't just an artifact," Ethan murmured. "It's a map. Or maybe a key. something that leads to knowledge or power no one should have. Margaret studied it closely. If Victor gets this fully unlocked, he could manipulate anyone, control everything in the city. We have to keep it safe. Outside, a low whistle echoed through the streets. Ethan and Margaret froze. Victor was close. He always was. Ethan tucked the medallion securely back into his coat. Then we move fast. Tonight we start tracking the Order, and we find out their connection to Victor. This game isn't over. Margaret drew her dagger, determination hard in her eyes. No more running. Tonight we fight. Above the rooftops, Victor watched silently, a shadow among shadows. They have it, but they won't keep it for long, he muttered. The real game begins now. The night settled over Golden Lane once more, fog curling around corners, shadows hiding threats, and secrets waiting to be uncovered. Ethan and Margaret had the medallion, but now they had enemies far beyond Victor, a secret society, centuries old, willing to kill for what they desired. Every street, every alley, every whisper could be a trap, but they had no choice. They had to face the darkness and the shadows in order to protect the medallion and perhaps the city itself. Ethan and Margaret crouched in the shadowed corners of the warehouse, their eyes darting to every creaking beam above. The medallion pulsed faintly in Ethan's hand, its golden glow illuminating the symbols that seemed to move, alive with some secret language. "We need answers," Margaret whispered, tightening her grip on her dagger. "We can't just chase shadows forever." Ethan nodded. Lucas mentioned an underground chamber beneath the old theater. He said the Order of the Veil uses it to store things, secrets, artifacts, knowledge from centuries past. That's where we'll find the next clue. The streets outside were silent, but danger was close. Every alley, every rooftop could hide Victor or an agent of the Order. Ethan double-checked the medallion's safety in his coat. "We move fast and we stay quiet. One mistake and they'll know we're on to them." Margaret followed him through narrow passages and abandoned service tunnels, the faint echo of their footsteps mixing with distant drips of water. Finally, they emerged beneath the crumbling facade of the old theater. A loose stone in the floor revealed a staircase descending into darkness. Ethan's flashlight cut through the blackness, revealing walls lined with ancient markings, symbols that glimmered faintly, reacting to the medallion's presence. "This is it," Ethan breathed. "Somewhere down here is the key to understanding the medallion." Margaret nodded. They descended, careful not to disturb loose stones or trigger hidden traps. The air grew colder, thicker, as though the chamber itself resisted intrusion. At the bottom, they found a massive iron door, etched with the same shifting symbols as the medallion. Ethan held up the medallion. The symbols on the door began to glow, the patterns flowing like liquid gold. With a deep breath, he pressed the medallion into a small indentation at the center. The door rumbled, ancient gears grinding as it slowly opened. Inside, the chamber was vast, filled with shelves of scrolls, strange artifacts, and intricate mechanical devices whose purposes were lost to time. In the center, a pedestal held a book, bound in black leather, covered in arcane symbols. Margaret approached it cautiously. This could be the secrets Lucas mentioned. Ethan carefully opened the book. The pages were filled with diagrams, maps of unknown locations, and cryptic instructions. One passage made him stop cold. The medallion unlocks what was hidden. The holder controls the threshold between light and shadow. But beware, for knowledge alone is a dangerous gift. Margaret looked over his shoulder. Victor must have been searching for this, for all of this. A sudden noise echoed from above, the sound of boots on the stairs. Shadow fell over the chamber entrance. Victor's voice, calm but menacing, filled the air. "I wondered how long it would take you to find this place," he said. "But the medallion belongs to me, Hand it over and I might let you walk away." Ethan stepped forward, holding the medallion tightly. "You won't get it. Not now, not ever. Whatever power it holds, we won't let you use it." Victor smiled, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "You don't understand, detectives. This is bigger than any of us. The Order of the Veil has waited centuries for this moment, and you're just part of the game." Margaret moved beside Ethan, dagger ready. "Then we play by our rules." Victor's agents appeared behind him, surrounding the chamber. Shadows danced across the walls as the room became a cage. Ethan and Margaret exchanged a tense glance, knowing that every move, every decision, could mean life or death. Ethan whispered to Margaret, "We have the medallion, and we know its secrets. That's our advantage. Stick to the plan. We get the book, we escape, and we expose the Order." Margaret nodded. "And we stop Victor. Tonight it ends, one way or another." As the medallion glowed brighter in Ethan's hand, the chamber seemed to come alive. Symbols rose from the walls, flowing like liquid, swirling around them. The ancient power within the medallion had awakened, and the true game, one of secrets, shadows, and power, was about to begin. Outside, the city slept, unaware that beneath its streets, a battle for knowledge and control was erupting. And above all, the medallion pulsed with a light that could change everything. The chamber shook as Victor's agents closed in, shadows stretching across the walls like living creatures. Ethan tightened his grip on the medallion, feeling its pulse quicken. He knew this moment would decide everything: the fate of the city, the secrets of the Order, and their very lives. Margaret whispered, "We need a plan now. We can't fight them head on." Ethan scanned the room, eyes resting on the black leather book. Symbols on its pages seemed to shimmer, as though offering guidance. He realized the medallion wasn't just a key, it was a weapon. "Stick close," he said. "We use the chamber itself. Its secrets will protect us." Victor stepped forward, a smirk playing across his lips. "You think you can outsmart the Order? You have no idea what you're meddling with." Ethan raised the medallion, and the symbols on the walls began to glow, responding to his touch. Arcane light filled the room, casting Victor and his agents into stark relief. With a thought, Ethan activated a mechanism described in the book. Ancient glyphs flashed, and a hidden passage opened behind the pedestal, sending some of Victor's agents tumbling into darkness. Margaret moved swiftly, using her dagger to disable the nearest attackers, while Ethan focused on Victor. The villain tried to seize the medallion, but its weight and glow repelled him as if protecting its chosen bearer. "You can't control it," Ethan shouted. "This power isn't yours to take." Victor lunged, and a fierce struggle ensued. The medallion pulsed violently, light spilling across the chamber, illuminating hidden symbols on the floor. Ethan realized the key was not force, but knowledge. Recalling the instructions from the book, he traced a pattern in the air with the medallion. The chamber responded, walls shifting and creating a barrier between him and Victor. Victor screamed in frustration, trapped by the ancient mechanisms he could neither understand nor control. The remaining agents panicked, retreating as the chamber seemed to fight alongside Ethan and Margaret. Breathing heavily, Ethan closed the book. "It's done," he said. Margaret nodded, wiping sweat and blood from her brow. They had survived the confrontation, neutralized Victor, and secured the medallion. Outside, the city remained unaware of how close it had come to catastrophe. But Ethan and Margaret knew that knowledge was both a gift and a responsibility. The medallion's light faded to a gentle glow, signaling the beginning of a new chapter, one in which secrets could be protected rather than exploited. As dawn broke, Ethan and Margaret emerged from the underground chamber. They glanced at one another, a silent understanding passing between them. The game was over, but the world had changed forever. And somewhere in the shadows, The faintest trace of the Order of the Veil still lingered, a reminder that even in victory, vigilance was never optional. The city had settled into a deceptive calm. From the surface, life went on as usual, unaware of the invisible war that had just concluded beneath its streets. Ethan and Margaret, however, could not let themselves rest. The medallion's soft glow pulsed in Ethan's pocket, a constant reminder that the danger was far from over. "This isn't just an artifact," Ethan muttered as they walked through the quiet streets. "It's alive, almost. It reacts to intent, to knowledge. We need to understand it before someone else does." Margaret nodded, glancing around cautiously. "Victor may be gone, but his order, there's always more. I don't trust anyone to be completely gone." They returned to Ethan's study, cluttered with old books and notes. The black leather book lay open on the table, symbols faintly shimmering as if anticipating their touch. Ethan traced his fingers over the glyphs, realizing each one seemed to correspond to a memory, a truth, or a fear. As the night deepened, the medallion's glow intensified. Ethan lifted it, and suddenly a projection appeared, ghostly images of ancient guardians, long-forgotten protectors of the medallion. Their eyes seemed to pierce through time itself, conveying a silent warning. The power they held was not to be wielded lightly. Margaret leaned closer. "Are they talking to us?" Ethan shook his head. "Not talking, guiding, testing us." A sudden tremor shook the room. The medallion reacted violently, light stretching outward, illuminating hidden symbols on the floor. Ethan and Margaret exchanged a glance, understanding at the same instant. The medallion was calling them somewhere far older than the city itself. By dawn, they had deciphered enough of the book to determine the location. A subterranean temple buried beneath the oldest district, long forgotten by time. They prepared cautiously, knowing that whatever awaited them would test not just their wits, but their courage and loyalty. The journey to the temple was fraught with obstacles. Collapsed tunnels, shifting walls, and cryptic inscriptions demanded not brute strength, but intelligence and trust between them. At every turn, the medallion pulsed, urging them onward, guiding them toward the truth. Finally, they reached the inner sanctum. The chamber was vast, pillars etched with ancient runes reaching toward a domed ceiling painted with constellations. At its center lay a pedestal, hollow and waiting. The medallion floated above it, glowing brighter than ever. Ethan whispered, "This is it, the secret beyond the light." Margaret's hand found his shoulder. "Whatever happens, we face it together." And in that moment the medallion's glow expanded, illuminating not just the chamber, but the path to a destiny they had never imagined, a destiny intertwined with power, responsibility, and the shadows of the past. The temple's entrance loomed before them, ancient stones covered in moss and age-old inscriptions. Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. It was more than just history here. It was alive, watching them, testing them. Margaret whispered, "Stay alert. I have a feeling the medallion isn't the only thing we'll encounter." Ethan nodded, holding the glowing artifact closer. As they stepped inside, the air grew colder, heavier, and the flicker of torchlight revealed carved patterns on the walls, symbols not just of protection, but of warning. Every step echoed in the cavernous halls, amplifying even the slightest sound into a booming resonance. At the center of the temple, they discovered a large stone door, sealed tight with complex mechanisms. The medallion floated slightly above Ethan's palm, vibrating in sync with the carved sigils. He realized that each symbol responded to a certain emotion: fear, courage, curiosity. Carefully, Ethan mirrored the medallion's pulsing rhythm, and the lock slowly began to yield. The door creaked open, revealing a chamber unlike anything they had imagined. Crystalline formations jutted from every surface, reflecting light in dazzling arrays. At the heart of the room rested a pool of luminescent water, rippling without wind, and above it, suspended in midair, was an ancient relic, a second medallion, older, darker, exuding power that felt almost sentient. This this is what the first medallion was guiding us to, Ethan murmured. It's a pair. Together they hold knowledge and power far beyond anything we've encountered. Margaret stepped forward cautiously. But look at the inscriptions. They're warnings. Whoever wields this could be tempted or destroyed. As they approached, the water stirred. Whispers filled the chamber, unintelligible yet strangely coherent, almost like thoughts being projected directly into their minds. Ethan felt the pull of temptation, visions of power and secrets that could reshape reality itself. He clenched the medallion, grounding himself. "We need to be careful," he said. "One wrong move and the medallion could overwhelm us." The shadows seemed to shift around them, forming fleeting shapes of ancient guardians and forgotten scholars, reminding them that the chamber was a test. Ethan and Margaret realized this was not just about the medallion's power, but their own integrity and resilience. Hours passed as they deciphered the relic's runes and medallion interactions. Every solution led to another question. Every revelation hinted at deeper truths. Yet through it all, their trust in each other remained steadfast, the one constant in a place designed to challenge both body and mind. Finally, as dawn's first light pierced the temple's cracks, the medallion pulsed once more, revealing the chamber's final secret, a map etched in pure energy, pointing to a forgotten city lost to time, the next stage in a journey that was only beginning. Ethan and Margaret exchanged a glance, understanding the weight of what they had uncovered. They were no longer just seekers, they were guardians, and the world outside remained blissfully unaware of the destiny that now rested in their hands. The map revealed by the medallion pulsed with faint light, each line guiding them toward a forgotten city buried beneath centuries of sand and silence. Ethan traced the route with his finger, awe and anxiety warring within him. "We're not just following history," he said. "We're stepping into something that's been waiting for us, maybe even testing us." Margaret nodded, her eyes scanning the surrounding jungle. "The moment we leave this temple, the real challenge begins. We must be ready for traps, guardians, or worse, others who want the medallion." The journey was grueling. For days they navigated through dense forests, treacherous cliffs, and raging rivers. The medallion glowed brighter as they approached the city, as if reacting to proximity. Strange symbols appeared etched into rocks, trees, and ancient ruins along the way, signs of a civilization lost to time, warning intruders of the city's formidable defenses. One night, as they camped near a cliff overlooking a vast desert valley, shadows moved in the distance. Figures cloaked in black, barely visible in the moonlight, were watching. Ethan whispered to Margaret, "They know we're coming. We have to move faster." At dawn, they reached the edge of the desert, the lost city barely visible on the horizon, its towering spires and crumbling walls half swallowed by sand. The air shimmered strangely, as if the city itself was alive, aware of their arrival. Entering the city, they found pathways lined with statues of warriors and scholars, each carved with expressions of warning and vigilance. Strange mechanisms and hidden traps were everywhere. Ethan realized that the city itself was a puzzle, designed to test intellect, courage, and morality. They discovered murals depicting events from the city's history, rulers corrupted by greed, citizens saved by cunning, and medallions like theirs wielding immense power. Ethan and Margaret understood that the medallion's purpose was not just to unlock secrets, but to guide worthy individuals in preserving them. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the city. Sand cascaded from the ruined walls, and the ground beneath them cracked. From the shadows emerged guardians, statues animated by ancient magic, moving with eerie precision toward them. Ethan raised the medallion, which began to glow fiercely, illuminating the chamber and revealing weak points in the guardian's armor. The battle was intense, requiring strategy and quick thinking. Margaret's knowledge of ancient symbols helped them decipher the Guardian's patterns, while Ethan's courage and reflexes kept them one step ahead. Together they overcame the animated statues, earning a cautious passage deeper into the heart of the city. At the center of the lost city, they discovered a massive obelisk carved with runes similar to those in the temple. The medallion pulsed with recognition, resonating with the obelisk's energy. Ethan placed the artifact against the stone, and the obelisk emitted a bright beam of light, projecting a holographic map of the city's hidden chambers and forgotten libraries. "This is incredible," Margaret whispered. "All of the city's knowledge, preserved for centuries, waiting for someone worthy to find it." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. "We've come this far, but the journey isn't over. We must understand and protect this knowledge, or it could fall into the wrong hands." As the sun set over the desert, the lost city seemed to come alive in quiet acknowledgement, the wind carrying whispers of approval and caution. Ethan and Margaret knew that their adventure had reached a new level, one filled with greater mysteries, challenges, and the burden of safeguarding secrets that had survived the ages. The obelisk's glow bathed the chamber in an ethereal light, illuminating the intricate carvings and hidden passages. Ethan and Margaret studied the holographic map, noting several chambers marked with symbols they had never seen before. "This city isn't just a relic of the past," Margaret said. "It's a living archive. Knowledge, technology, even power, all preserved, waiting for someone to understand it." Ethan traced a path to a chamber at the heart of the city, marked with the symbol of a sun encircled by serpents. "This might be the central library," he suggested. "Whatever's here could change everything we know about the civilization that built this place." They moved cautiously, aware that each step could trigger hidden mechanisms. The city's magic seemed to respond to their presence, doors opening or closing, pathways shifting subtly, almost as if the city were testing them. Inside the central chamber, towering shelves of stone and crystal contained scrolls, tablets, and artifacts that glimmered faintly. Margaret began deciphering the inscriptions, revealing advanced knowledge of astronomy, medicine, and engineering. Suddenly, a shadow crossed the chamber. A figure stepped out, cloaked in dark robes, eyes glinting with intent. "I wondered how long it would take for you to reach this place," the stranger said. "The medallion belongs to those who can wield its power wisely. Or to me." Ethan stepped forward, medallion in hand. "We're here to protect the knowledge, not to use it for personal gain." The stranger laughed softly. "Protection is subjective. Power attracts ambition, and ambition attracts danger. Let's see if you're worthy." A battle of intellect and skill ensued. The stranger manipulated the chamber, activating traps and using illusions to confuse them. Ethan relied on his instincts, while Margaret's knowledge of the city's symbols allowed them to anticipate and counter the traps. Finally, they cornered the stranger near a pedestal containing a crystal orb that pulsed with energy. Ethan raised the medallion, which resonated with the orb, creating a shield that neutralized the stranger's attacks. "You may have bested me," the stranger said, stepping back, "but the city's secrets are far from safe. Others will come." Margaret looked around at the chamber, awed and wary. "We've only scratched the surface. There's so much here, and so many dangers still hidden." Ethan nodded. "We'll need to catalog everything, understand it, and decide what must be preserved and what must remain hidden. This city isn't just a discovery, it's a responsibility." As they began to explore deeper, Ethan and Margaret realized that the true challenge wasn't surviving the traps or the guardians. It was understanding the city itself, its lessons, and the moral choices it demanded. The lost city had given them power, knowledge, and insight, but with it came the weight of decisions that could alter history. The sun set beyond the horizon, casting long shadows over the city. The lost city seemed to hum softly, almost approvingly, as if acknowledging the resolve and courage of the two adventurers. Ethan and Margaret exchanged a glance, knowing that while this chapter might mark the end of this leg of their journey, the mysteries and responsibilities of the lost city would continue to shape their lives, and perhaps the world, forever. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video brought a little light to your day and eased away some of life's tired moments. Please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. There's plenty more content like this coming your way.